I canceled my daughter's credit cards while she was at a champagne brunch in the Hamptons. She called me screaming from the restaurant when her black Amex was declined. I let it ring twice before I answered. Then I told her exactly 3 words: "Figure it out, Brooklyn." And I hung up. Let me back up. My name is Evelyn Margaret Hart. I'm 63 years old, and I built Hart Medical Supply from nothing. When my husband Thomas died of a heart attack 17 years ago, he left me with a warehouse full of hospital equipment, 2 employees, and a daughter who was 11 years old. I worked 16-hour days. I missed dance recitals and parent-teacher conferences. I told myself I was building something for Brooklyn, my only child, my little girl who looked just like her father with those green eyes and that stubborn chin. I gave her everything: private schools, summer camps in Switzerland, a Mercedes for her 16th birthday, a penthouse condo in Tribeca when she turned 25. I paid for her degree in communications from NYU, which she barely used because she decided to become a lifestyle influencer instead. I told myself it was fine. She was happy. She had 300,000 followers on Instagram. She partnered with luxury brands. She attended galas and charity events. When Brooklyn married Ryan Mitchell 2 years ago, I thought she had finally found stability. Ryan was a pediatric surgeon at Mount Sinai, 32 years old, kind, patient, from a good family in Connecticut. He adored Brooklyn. He looked at her like she hung the moon, even when she showed up an hour late to their own engagement party because she was at a photo shoot. I paid for the wedding, 400 guests at the plaza, flowers imported from Ecuador, a Vera Wang dress that cost more than most people's cars. Brooklyn wanted perfection, and I gave it to her. Ryan's parents contributed what they could, but Thomas and I had built wealth, and they were school teachers who'd saved for retirement. I didn't mind. I wanted my daughter to have her fairy tale. What I didn't see, what I refused to see, was that I had created someone who believed fairy tales were real. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in October. I was in a meeting with suppliers when my assistant interrupted, which she never did. Ryan's mother, Susan Mitchell, was on the line, and she was calling from Mount Sinai Hospital. "Evelyn, there's been an accident," Susan said, her voice shaking. Ryan was on his motorcycle. A truck ran a red light on the FDR drive. He's in surgery now. "It's bad, Evelyn. They don't know if he'll walk again." I grabbed my purse and left the meeting without a word. I called Brooklyn from the car. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted, "Ryan's been in a serious accident. Mount Sinai ER. Come now." The text showed as read. No response. When I got to the hospital, Susan was in the surgical waiting room with Ryan's father, Peter. Susan's eyes were red and swollen. Peter was pacing. Ryan had been in surgery for 3 hours. Shattered pelvis. Broken vertebrae. Internal bleeding. The doctors were doing everything they could. "Where's Brooklyn?" Susan asked me. "I'm sure she's on her way," I said, but my stomach was already twisting. I called Brooklyn again. This time she answered. "Mom, I'm kind of in the middle of something," she said. I could hear laughter in the background, music, the clink of glasses. "Brooklyn, Ryan's been in a motorcycle accident. He's in surgery. You need to get to Mount Sinai immediately." There was a pause. "Oh my God, is he okay?" "We don't know." "Where are you?" "I'm in the Hamptons. Sasha's birthday brunch. But I'll leave right now, I promise." "Brooklyn, that was 3 hours ago. Why didn't you answer when I called?" "My phone was in my bag, Mom. I'll get an Uber back to the city right now." She didn't arrive for 6 more hours. When Brooklyn finally walked into the waiting room at 8:30 that night, she was wearing a white linen dress and gold sandals. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. She looked like she'd just stepped off a yacht, which, I learned later, she had. Ryan had been out of surgery for 2 hours by then. The doctors said he would live, but his spine was damaged. He would need months of physical therapy. He might never operate again. His career, the career he'd spent 12 years building, might be over. Brooklyn hugged Susan and cried, but something about it felt performative. I watched her carefully. She asked the right questions and said the right things, but when she thought no one was looking, I saw her check her phone. Twice. We were allowed to see Ryan briefly. He was unconscious, on a ventilator, his body broken and bandaged. Susan held his hand and wept. Brooklyn stood at the foot of the bed, looking uncomfortable, like she didn't know what to do with her hands. "I need to use the restroom," Brooklyn whispered to me after 5 minutes. She left and didn't come back for 20 minutes. When she returned, I smelled cigarette smoke on her, which she'd quit 2 years ago, supposedly. That night, I offered to stay at the hospital. Brooklyn said she would too, but at midnight she said she was exhausted and needed to go home to shower and change. She promised she'd be back first thing in the morning. She didn't come back the next day. When I called her at noon, she said she'd woken up with a migraine. She'd come by in the evening. She didn't show up in the evening either. She texted, "I'm so sorry, the migraine got worse. I took medication and passed out. I'll be there tomorrow, I swear." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in a chair next to Ryan's hospital bed while Susan dozed in the other chair, and I thought about my daughter. I thought about all the times I'd made excuses for her, all the times I'd smoothed things over, paid for things, fixed things, the time she rear-ended someone's car and I paid for the damage because she didn't want her insurance rates to go up, the time she got fired from her first job for showing up late repeatedly, and I'd called in a favor to get her a position at a friend's marketing firm, the time she'd maxed out her credit card and called me crying, and I'd paid it off without question. I had enabled her. I had created this. On Thursday morning, Ryan woke up. He was groggy and in pain, but he was coherent. The first thing he asked for was Brooklyn. "She's on her way," Susan lied gently, because Brooklyn had texted me that morning to say she had an important meeting with a brand partnership and would come by in the afternoon. She didn't come in the afternoon. At 6 p.m., I was getting coffee in the hospital cafeteria when I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. There was a television mounted on the wall, playing some celebrity gossip show on mute with subtitles. And there, on the screen, was my daughter. Brooklyn was at a rooftop party in Manhattan. The caption read, "Lifestyle influencer Brooklyn Hart celebrates at the launch of Azure Sky Lounge." She was laughing, champagne glass in hand, wearing a sequin dress I'd never seen before. The timestamp on the footage was from 3 hours ago. Her husband was lying in a hospital bed with a broken spine, and she was at a party. I didn't remember walking back to Ryan's room. I didn't remember what I said to Susan and Peter. I just remember getting in my car and driving to the address I found for Azure Sky Lounge. The bouncer recognized me. I'd been in society pages often enough over the years. He let me in without question. I found Brooklyn on the terrace, surrounded by people I didn't recognize. She had her phone out, posing for a photo with 2 other women. When she saw me, her face went white. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I simply said, "We need to talk. Now." She followed me to a quiet corner, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out what story would work. "Brooklyn, your husband is in the hospital. He asked for you this morning. His parents are there 24/7, and you're here, drinking champagne and taking selfies. Mom, I know how this looks, but I needed a break. I've been so stressed." "Stressed?" "Ryan can't feel his legs right now. The doctors don't know if he'll ever operate again. But you're stressed? You don't understand. I can't just sit in that hospital room all day. It's depressing. And I have obligations. This brand paid me $10,000 to be here tonight." I stared at my daughter, this beautiful stranger I'd raised, and I didn't recognize her. "Get your things. We're leaving." "Mom, I'm not a child." "Then stop acting like one." She didn't come with me. She said I was being dramatic. She said I didn't understand her life, her career, her needs. She said Ryan would be fine, that I was overreacting. I left alone. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 30 minutes, shaking, and then I made a decision. I called my attorney, Gerald Weinstein, at home. I'd known Gerald for 20 years. He'd handled Thomas's will, my business contracts, everything. "Evelyn, it's almost midnight. What's wrong? I need you to do something for me, and I need you to do it immediately, first thing tomorrow morning." "What do you need?" "The Tribeca condo is in my name. I want Brooklyn evicted, legally, properly. Give her 30 days' notice." Gerald was quiet for a moment. "Evelyn, are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything, and I want all credit cards that I pay for canceled, the Amex, the Visa, all of them. I want the Mercedes returned. It's in my name." "I'm done, Gerald. I'm done enabling her. What happened? I raised a monster. And now I'm going to see if she can become human again. Gerald didn't ask questions. He said he'd have the paperwork ready by morning. I went back to the hospital. Ryan was awake, staring at the ceiling. Susan and Peter had gone to get food. "Mrs. Hart," Ryan said when he saw me, "is Brooklyn okay? I've been texting her, but she hasn't responded." I pulled a chair close to his bed. "Ryan, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me. Brooklyn is not coming." "What do you mean?" "I mean, she's been to this hospital once in 4 days. She's at parties, she's at brunches, she's living her life as if you're not here." Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "She's just scared. She doesn't handle things like this well. Ryan, you deserve better than excuses. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I raised someone who could do this to you. It's not your fault, Mrs. Hart." "Yes, it is, but I'm going to fix it. Or at least try." The next morning, Brooklyn called me at 7 a.m. screaming, "What did you do? My credit card was declined. At Balthazar. Do you know how embarrassing that is?" "Good morning to you too, Brooklyn." "Mom, fix this right now." "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I've canceled the credit cards. I'm taking back the car, and you have 30 days to move out of the condo." Silence. Then, "You can't do that." "I can. I did. The condo is in my name. The car is in my name. The credit cards are mine. You're 30 years old, Brooklyn. It's time you supported yourself." "This is insane. You're punishing me because I went to one party?" "I'm not punishing you. I'm setting you free. You want to be an independent adult? Now's your chance. Pay your own rent. Buy your own things. Live within your means." "I make money from Instagram." "Then you should be fine. Good luck, Brooklyn." I hung up before she could respond. She called back 47 times. I didn't answer. She texted me horrible things. She said I was a terrible mother. She said I'd ruined her life. She said I'd destroyed her father's memory with my cruelty. That last one hurt. But I didn't back down. Susan Mitchell called me that afternoon. "Evelyn, I don't know what you did, but Brooklyn just showed up at the hospital. She's been here for 3 hours. She hasn't left Ryan's side." "Good," I said. Brooklyn didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. She moved in with a friend in Williamsburg. She sold some of her designer clothes and bags to pay for expenses. Her Instagram posts became less frequent, less polished. She started showing up at the hospital every day, sometimes twice a day. Ryan began physical therapy. It was brutal, painful work, and Brooklyn was there, holding his hand, encouraging him, crying with him when he was frustrated. 3 months later, my phone rang at 10 p.m. It was Brooklyn. "Mom?" Her voice was small, broken. "Yes? Can we talk? In person?" We met at a coffee shop in Chelsea. Brooklyn looked different. No makeup, her hair in a messy ponytail. She was wearing jeans and a sweater I remembered from her college days. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I'm so sorry. You were right. About everything." "Brooklyn, no. Let me finish. I've been in therapy. Ryan and I have been going together. And I've been thinking about who I was, who I became. I was selfish. I was entitled. I treated people like accessories. I treated my own husband like he was just part of my aesthetic." Tears were running down her face. "I thought I had everything figured out. I thought my life was perfect. But I was so empty, Mom. I was so unhappy. And I didn't even know it. I just kept posting and shopping and going to parties because that's what I thought I was supposed to do." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I got a job," she said. "A real job. I'm working at a nonprofit that helps kids with medical trauma. Ryan connected me with them. It's entry level. The pay is terrible. But I love it, Mom. I actually love what I'm doing. I'm proud of you," I said. And I meant it. "I know I can't have the condo back, or the car, or the credit cards, and I don't want them. But I want you. I want my mom back, and I want to be someone who deserves to have you." We both cried then, right there in the coffee shop, not caring who saw. "You always deserved to have me," I said. "But you needed to find yourself first, and I needed to let you." Ryan made a remarkable recovery. He regained most of his mobility, though he walks with a slight limp now. He couldn't return to surgery, but he's teaching at Columbia's medical school, mentoring the next generation of pediatric surgeons. He tells me he's happier now than he ever was in the OR. Brooklyn and Ryan bought a small apartment in Queens with their combined savings. Brooklyn still posts on Instagram occasionally, but it's different now. Real. She shares her work with the nonprofit, Ryan's Recovery Journey, the struggles and the victories. Her follower count dropped by half, but her engagement tripled. People respond to authenticity. Last month, Brooklyn invited me to dinner at their apartment. She cooked, which was a miracle in itself because I'd never taught her. The pasta was overcooked and the salad was overdressed, but it was the best meal I'd ever had. As I was leaving, Brooklyn hugged me tight. "Thank you for loving me enough to let me fall," she whispered. "Thank you for getting back up," I whispered back. I think about that phone call I made to Gerald, the decision to cut Brooklyn off, and I know some people would say I was cruel. Some people would say a mother should never abandon her child. But I didn't abandon her. I saved her. I saved her from a life of emptiness disguised as luxury. I saved her from becoming someone so disconnected from reality that she couldn't recognize love when it was lying in a hospital bed, broken and asking for her. And maybe, in the process, I saved myself from the guilt of creating someone who would never know the satisfaction of earning something, building something, becoming something real. Brooklyn calls me every Sunday now. Sometimes we just talk about small things. Her week at work, a funny thing Ryan said, a recipe she wants to try. Sometimes we talk about bigger things, about Thomas and how much we both miss him, about the mistakes we've made and the grace we've found in second chances. Last Sunday, she told me she was pregnant. 3 months along, she cried on the phone, happy tears this time. "I'm scared I'll mess it up," she admitted. "Like, what if I turn into who I was before?" "You won't," I assured her, "because now you know better, and knowing better is half the battle. Will you help me? When the baby comes?" "Of course." "But Brooklyn?" "Yeah? I'm not buying you a baby nurse or a night doula or designer nursery furniture. You and Ryan will figure it out together, just like every other couple." She laughed. "I know, Mom. I wouldn't want it any other way." And she meant it. That's how I know she's going to be fine. That's how I know the woman I raised is still in there, the one I glimpsed before wealth and social media and empty validation buried her under designer labels and curated lies. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to prove they're stronger than you both thought. Sometimes love looks like a canceled credit card and a 30-day eviction notice. And sometimes, just sometimes, it works. So yes, I canceled my daughter's credit cards while she was at a champagne brunch, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because the Brooklyn who calls me every Sunday, who works with sick children, who loves her husband with depth and substance, who's terrified and excited about becoming a mother, that Brooklyn is worth more than all the Amex black cards in the world. That's the daughter I always wanted to raise. I just had to get out of her way and let her find herself. And she did.